Good morning, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me again today where we're continuing with 2 Samuel. Before we begin, chapter 16, our prayer. Father, as I read and receive your word, may it deeply be rooted in me, so when difficulty comes, it will be your word that encourages and strengthens me. Amen. So as I mentioned, we're still in 2 Samuel. We're going to start chapter 16 today. David and Ziba. David was just past the top of the hill when Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, caught up with him. He was leading 2 donkeys loaded with 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of raisins, 100 bunches of summer fruit, and a skin of wine. "What are these for?" the king asked Ziba. And Ziba replied, "The donkeys are for your people to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit are for the young men to eat. The wine is to be taken with you into the wilderness for those who come faint." And where is Mephibosheth? The king asked him. "He stayed in Jerusalem," Ziba replied. "He said, 'Today I will get back to the kingdom of my grandfather Saul.'" In that case, the king told Ziba, "I give you everything Mephibosheth owns." "Thank you, sir," Ziba replied. "I will do whatever you want me to do." Shimei curses David. As David and his party passed Bahurim, a man came out of the village cursing them. It was Shimei, son of Gera, a member of Saul's family. He threw stones at the king and the king's officers and all the mighty warriors who surrounded them. "Get out of here, you murderer, you scoundrel," he shouted to David. "The Lord is paying you back for murdering Saul and his family. You stole his throne, and now the Lord has given it to your son Absalom. At least you will taste some of your own medicine, you murderer." "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king?" Abishai, son of Zeruiah, demanded. "Let me go over and cut off his head." "No," the king said. "What am I going to do with you sons of Zeruiah? If the Lord has told him to curse me, who am I to stop him?" Then David said to Abishai and their officers, "My own son is trying to kill me. Shouldn't this relative of Saul have even more reason to do so? Leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to do it. And perhaps the Lord will see that I am being wronged, and will bless me because of these curses." So David and his men continued on, and Shimei kept pace with them on a nearby hillside, cursing as he went, and throwing stones at David and tossing dust in the air. The king and all who were with him grew very weary along the way, so they rested when they reached the Jordan River. Ahithophel advises Absalom. Meanwhile, Absalom and his men arrived at Jerusalem, accompanied by Ahithophel. When David's friend Hushai the Archite arrived, he immediately went to see Absalom. "Long live the king," he explained. "Long live the king." "Is this the way you treat your friend David?" Absalom asked him. "Why aren't you with him?" "I am here because I worked for the man who was chosen by the Lord and by Israel," Hushai replied. "And anyway, why shouldn't I serve you? I helped your father, and now I will help you." Then Absalom turned to Ahithophel and asked him, "What should I do next?" Ahithophel told him, "Go and sleep with your father's concubines, for he has left them here to keep the house. Then all Israel will know that you have insulted him beyond hope of reconciliation, and they will give you their support." So they set up a tent on the palace roof where everyone could see it, and Absalom went into the tent to sleep with his father's concubines. Absalom followed Ahithophel's advice, just as David had done. For every word Ahithophel spoke seemed as wise as though it had come directly from the mouth of God. Now Ahithophel urged Absalom, "Let me choose 12,000 men to start out after David tonight. I will catch up to him while he is weary and discouraged. He and his troops will panic, and everyone will run away. Then I will kill only the king, and I will bring all the people back to you as a bride returns to her husband. After all, it is only his man's life that you seek. Then all the people will remain unharmed and peaceful." This plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the other leaders of Israel. Hushai counters Ahithophel's advice. But then Absalom said, "Bring in Hushai the Archite. Let's see what he thinks about this." Then Hushai arrived. Absalom told him what Ahithophel had said. Then he asked, "What is your opinion? Should we follow Ahithophel's advice? If not, speak up. Well, Hushai replied, this time I think Ahithophel has made a mistake. You know your father and his men. They are mighty warriors. Right now they are probably as enraged as a mother bear who has been robbed of her cubs. And remember that your father is an experienced soldier. He won't be spending the night among the troops. He has probably already hidden in some pit or cave. And when he comes out and attacks and a few of your men fall, there will be panic among your troops, and everyone will start shouting that your men are being slaughtered. Then even the bravest of them, though they have the heart of a lion, will be paralyzed with fear. For all Israel knows that what a mighty man your father is, and how courageous his warriors are. I suggest you mobilize the entire army of Israel, bringing them from as far away as Dan and Beersheba. That way you will have an army as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And I think you should personally lead the troops. When we find David, we can descend on him like the dew falls to the ground, so that not one of his men is left alive. And if David has escaped in some city, you will have the entire army of Israel there at your command. Then we can take ropes and drag the walls of the city into the nearest valley until every stone is torn down. Then Absalom and all the leaders of Israel said, Hushai's advice is better than Ahithophel's, for the Lord had arranged to defeat the counsel of Ahithophel, which really was the better plan, so that he could bring disaster upon Absalom. Hushai warns David to escape. Then Hushai reported to Zadok and Abiathar the priests that Ahithophel had said, and what he himself had suggested instead. Quick, he told them, find David and urge him not to stay at the shallows of the Jordan River tonight. He must go across at once into the wilderness beyond. Otherwise he will die and his entire army with him. Jonathan and Ahimaaz had been staying at En-Rogel, so as not to be seen entering and leaving the city. Arrangements had been made for a servant girl to bring them the message they were to take to King David. But a boy saw them leaving En-Rogel to go to David, and he told Absalom about it. Meanwhile, they escaped to Bahurim, where a man hid them inside a wall in his courtyard. The man's wife put a cloth over the top of the wall, with grain on it to dry in the sun, so no one suspected they were there. When Absalom's men arrived, they asked her, have you seen Ahimaaz and Jonathan? She replied, they were here, but they crossed the brook. Absalom's men looked for them without success and returned to Jerusalem. Then the two men crawled out of the well and hurried on to King David. Quick, they told him, cross the Jordan tonight, and they told him how Ahithophel had advised and that he be captured and killed. So David and all the people with him went across the Jordan River during the night, and they were all on the other bank before dawn. Meanwhile, Ahithophel was publicly disgraced when Absalom refused his advice. So he saddled his donkey, went to his hometown, set his affairs in order, and hanged himself. He died there and was buried beside his father. David soon arrived at Mahanaim. By now, Absalom had mobilized the entire army of Israel and was leading his troops across the Jordan River. Absalom had appointed Amasa as commander of his army, replacing Joab, who had been commander under David. Amasa was Joab's cousin. His father was Jethur, and Ishmaelite. His mother Abigail, daughter of Nahash, was the sister of Joab's mother, Zeruiah. Absalom and the Israelite army set up camp in the land of Gilead. When David arrived at Mahanaim, he was warmly greeted by Shobai, son of Nahash of Rabbah, an Ammonite, and by Machir, son of Amiel, of Lodabar, and by Barzillai of Gilead from Rogelim. They brought sleeping mats, cooking pots, sheeps, serving bowls, wheat and barley and flour, roasted grain, beans, lentils, honey, butter, and cheese for David and those who were with him. For they said, you must all be very tired and hungry and thirsty after your long march through the wilderness. Well, thank you for joining me today. We're going to stop there because 18 looks a little long, and we will pick up tomorrow at that spot. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a great day and a blessed day. Bye.